In math, we've been learning about fractions. And today we're going to talk about comparing fractions, right? So on your workbook page, let's just get it out and work on it together. Page 253, 254. They ask you right away, they show you two fractions and they say, circle the fraction that's greater, right? Here's one example. These two squares, which fraction that's shaded in is greater? Well, this is 1/4. This is 4/4. Which one is greater? And we'll circle the one that's greater. 4/4 is greater. And you get to do that a few times, but then they're going to ask you to circle the fraction that is less, right? That is smaller, okay? Now, it's the same shape, but it's divided into different types of fractions. When a shape is partitioned into the parts, they need to be equal parts, okay? So this is the same shape, but you can tell it's partitioned to different sizes, right? This one's partitioned just in two, so it's in halves. And this one is partitioned into 4 parts, right? Which fraction is smaller? 1/4 or 1/2? We can look at them colored in and we can tell which one is smaller than 1/4. Okay, so we need to get comfortable. This is a different type of math with different names and they represent different things. They're going to give you so many examples and so many opportunities to work with the shapes and get comfortable with what they mean, what the fractions represent. All right, so I like that they let you do some where you're circling what's greater, some where you're circling what fraction is smaller. And then number 10, I thought was an interesting question. They want you to circle a word to complete the sentence. When halves are partitioned, the halves become smaller or larger? Well, let's look. Here, this is a circle that's partitioned into halves, but what if and I drew another one down here, what if we partition the halves as well? Get that. Now, the fraction parts became smaller, okay? It's still making a circle, but now the partitioned parts are smaller. So it will take more smaller parts to make up the whole. It only takes 2 halves to make this whole, but it will take 4/4 to make this whole, okay? So that's number 10 and 11. I thought that was an interesting way to ask the question for you and imagine what's happening, okay? Now on the back, you just get to do more work with fractions. Some of them, it's mostly just all comparing. Which one's bigger, which one's smaller. So read the instructions clearly so you know which one they're asking for. And then you'll have a little bit of multiplication review. And I'm glad because you want to keep those multiplication skills sharp because you'll need to keep using that. So I hope you're enjoying the fractions. If you need help with this or want to talk about it more, please, you can ask me questions during our live class or you can send me a message on Teams and I can help you out. In science, we get to start a new chapter, chapter 12. It's called How the Body Works. I've had so much fun learning more and more about science with you this year. We've become scientists, haven't we? We know that a good scientist always has room to think, I wonder. They use a lot of creativity and they wonder and they want to know how things work and why things work. Well, this chapter that we're going to read is called How the Body Works. All right, so the world that God made is amazing. I've enjoyed each part of our science book where we've learned another thing about the world God made. Let's open our science book together. I'd like you to have your textbook with you. Page 177 begins us in our new chapter. It says, God made the parts of your body. He planned each part to work the way it does. Each part has a special job of its own. The parts also work together in groups called systems. Now, I want you to underline this word and its definition. This is one of your important words for this chapter. A system is a group of parts that work together to do a job. We study these systems to stay healthy. Right, turn the page. And we see in the heading it says the skeletal system, right? So that's what we're learning here, and you're going to use your pencil to underline that part. All the bones in your body work together in the skeletal system. Your bones are hard parts of your body. Bones is also one. You may have seen old, dry bones in a museum. Those bones are dead, but the bones inside your body are alive. They grow and change. They make new bone. God gave your bones some important jobs. One job is to give your body support. Your skeleton is the frame of bones that supports your body and gives it its shape. Your bones also protect the soft parts of inside your body. In your head, your skull protects your brain. In your chest, you have curved bones called ribs. The ribs surround most of your chest. They form your rib cage, and your heart, lungs, and stomach are all protected by your rib cage. Your bones have a third job. They allow your body to move. Sets of bones form joints that allow your arms and legs to move. If you bend forward, you can feel bumps down the center of your back. Can you feel that? Each of those bumps is a bone. This set of bones is your spine. It starts at the top of your neck and ends below your waist. You can reach back there and feel that now. Your spine allows your body to twist and to bend. Okay? So we have this picture of the skeleton, and it identifies what these parts are. And I think this is so interesting to look at because our skeleton, we never even think about it being there, but it has such an important job in our body, the skeletal system. It gives us support so that we can stand and have our shape. It protects the soft parts inside of our body, like our brain and our heart and our lungs and our stomach. And it also, the bones help us to move. Okay, so I think it's interesting, so much of our systems, our body systems are inside of us. It's not something we can see without, some sort of machine, but our bones, we can, if we just feel, we can notice them. There are places we can notice it, like in your wrist, in your fingers. We can feel the hard parts of our bones, can't we? I think that's interesting, like they said, if you put your hands on your back, you can feel the little bumps of your spine. So it's something we can be more aware of, and I think one of the ways we can be aware of it is when we move. Okay, so exercise is an important part to stay healthy. Do you remember on that first page it said, we study systems, it helps us stay healthy? Well, one of the things when you're thinking about the skeletal system, I want you to think about it whenever you're moving. You guys sometimes tell me things you like to do, like ride your scooter, or climb a tree, or run in your backyard, or jump, or play. When you do those things, I want you to think about the skeletal system that God designed in your body that's giving your body the support it needs to stand and have its shape, that's protecting important parts of the soft parts deep inside your body, like your brain and your heart and your lungs and your stomach. And it's also letting you move, okay? The ways that the bones come together, okay? It works together with other systems that we're going to continue learning about, and I'm excited about that. So we've read this. You can see here this whole diagram of the skeletal system, and I want you now to do this worksheet 153. You're going to, some of the words on there, because we read this together, you're going to know what they mean, and some of them might be new. So they want you to just think ahead about what you're about to learn about, and then it asks you a question about what do bones do. And we've talked today about how bones have 3 jobs. I want you to see if you can remember those 3 jobs when you answer your question on your worksheet. In English, we're learning about sentences and their parts. We've been talking about how a subject is who or what the sentence is about, and a predicate tells what the subject part does or is. okay? An action verb can be the main part of the predicate, okay? Let's look at this. We did some of these together. We've done some together in our live class, but let's do some of these, all right? Let's look at a few sentences. The bird makes a nest. So first, let's find the subject part. Who or what is the sentence about? The bird, okay? Now, what does the bird do? Or what is the bird? In this case, it says the bird makes a nest. So this word right here is the action word. And it's the main part of the predicate, okay? So we've talked about subject part, action part before, and now we're just learning the real name of it is predicate, okay? This part of the sentence is called the predicate. And the action verb can be the main part of a predicate, okay? So the bird, the subject, makes a nest is the predicate, and makes is the action verb. So when you are doing your worksheet today, 281 to 282, some of the time they're going to be asking you to do this. Circle the action word and draw a line to separate the subject and the predicate, right? So that's what we're going to do. We'll do this a few times together. Remember to follow all the instructions so you don't leave any steps out. A cat sits on the doghouse. A cat sits on the doghouse. Well, who or what is this sentence about? It's about a cat, right? And what is the cat doing? The cat sits. So that is our action verb. And you see that also is a clue to us that that's when the predicate is starting, when we find that action verb. A cat sits on the doghouse, all right? So we circle the action verb, draw a line between the subject and the predicate. Spot's house is red. Spot's house is red. Who or what is this sentence about? It's about Spot's house, okay? So your subject part can be more than one word. We put a line there. And we have is. This is a linking verb, right? Spot's house is red. And do you see this? Do you remember what this means when you have an apostrophe and an S? That is the word, that is how we make it possessive. So we know this house belongs to Spot. Spot's house is red. Spot, that must be the dog, right? The dog house is red. Spot barks at the cat. Who or what is this sentence about? The sentence is about Spot. Spot is the subject. And what does Spot do? Spot barks at the dog. So we'll circle the action verb and draw a line between the subject and the predicate. Okay, so you're going to have chances to do this on your worksheet. You also get an opportunity to make up your own sentence. This is your instructions. Write a sentence about something you ate today. Circle the verb, draw a line between the subject part and the predicate part. Okay, so, when you do this, I want you to follow those instructions. I want you to write your own sentence. And you're going to remember that a sentence has to start with a capital letter. It needs to make complete sense. It needs to have an end mark. And what we're learning about here is it needs to have a subject and a predicate, right? So I'm going to write one. I could write Mrs. Parsons if I wanted to. That would be the subject. I can just write I. Right? Something I ate today. I bet you can guess what I might write. I drank delicious coffee. Yes. Oops, delicious. I drank delicious coffee. I have a capital letter. I have an end mark. I have an action word. Let's circle it. And who is this sentence about? Who is the subject? I. So I'll put a line between I, subject, and drink delicious coffee, predicate. Okay, so I look forward to seeing what sentences you come up with. And I know you'll do a good job with this. If you have any questions, circle them, send me a photo or send me a message so I can help you out. Okay, so in history, we've been learning about the beginning of America, the United States of America. We've talked about several of the things that led up to the Revolutionary War. Today we're going to read about the Declaration of Independence. I'll write that up here. The Declaration of Independence. This is one of the bold print phrases, Declaration of Independence, in our reading today. Independence. Okay, so when you find that in your reading, you're going to want to underline it. So we've read about the different things that led up to it. Now it says, the Declaration of Independence, this is on page 167. The leaders from each colony met for a second time. Please have your history book with you right now, so we can read along together. They decided they needed their own army, and they chose George Washington to be its commander. George Washington was a planter from Virginia. He was a member of the House of Burgesses. He was also a soldier. He had fought bravely in the French and Indian War. 4 bullets had torn through his coat. 2 horses had been shot out from under him. Washington went to Boston to lead the army. His job would not be easy. The British army was large and strong. The colonist army was not well trained, but they were brave and they wanted to fight. And there's a painting of George Washington there. The colonists also needed to put their plans into writing. It was a time to declare or make known. You see that that's one of our vocabulary words, to declare or make known that they were free from Great Britain. The same men who had chosen Washington to lead the army now had to choose someone to write down these plans. They chose Thomas Jefferson, a skilled writer. Jefferson worked on the paper for several weeks. He wrote about rights and freedom. He said God had created all people with certain rights, and a good government should protect those rights. It should not take them away. The paper he wrote was called the Declaration of Independence. The leaders talked about the paper. They made some small changes in it. All 13 colonies voted to accept the Declaration. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted or accepted. Adopted is another bold print word. You'll want to underline that along with its definition. The men signed their names on the paper. The Declaration of Independence was printed. Copies were sent to the other colonies. A copy was taken to George Washington and the army. The soldiers cheered when they heard it read. Now, many colonists no longer thought of themselves as British citizens living in America. They thought of themselves as Americans. Okay, so what paper made the colonies' freedom known? It was the Declaration of Independence. Now they wrote it and they all signed it in all the colonies, and so they were making a declaration. We want to be independent. We want to be our own country. So it was their intent to make a new nation, the United States of America. Now they accepted it on July 4th, 1776. That July 4th, that's a day we still celebrate now in America. And it's called, some people call it Independence Day, July 4th. That's why that's the day that fireworks go off and people sing the national anthem and all that kind of stuff. It's celebrating the day that the Declaration of Independence was adopted by the first 13 colonies. Okay, so now that we've read those pages together, you can get out your history workbook. Page 175. They want you to look back at the pages 167 to 169, that's what we looked at together, and decide a few details that you want to write down. Details that you noticed from what we read. Now, we know that declaring independence, the heading on here and the heading in your book gives you a clue. These are details, but at the end, they want you to write what you think the main idea is. Do you remember we've talked about how titles can give us clues about what the main idea is? So when we look at those pages, we can see details like George Washington was chosen to be the army's leader, right? That's a detail. That's an important detail that we learned about. We could write something about how the colonists came together, the leaders of the colonies came together to make a plan. That's a detail. You could write down who wrote the plan. Thomas Jefferson, that's a detail. The main idea, what do you think the main idea is? The main idea is about the colonists declaring their independence, okay? That they adopted the Declaration of Independence saying they wanted to be their own nation, okay? America, all right? So you're gonna work on that. You're gonna use your textbook. It says right there, write details from those pages. You choose the details you think are interesting, but then also put in the main idea. And I'd like you to answer that in complete sentences.